Hi, welcome to SAS session. As you see on my screen, we have SAS Studio, which is again on demand for academics version, and it is a developmental web app, SAS Studio, as against SAS EG. The thing is, you can access this through your web browser, right? There's going to be no much of a difference as far as the coding part is concerned because we are not concentrating on the point and click option. There's some issue with my SAS EG version as of now, so that's the reason we are working on SAS Studio. So going ahead from where we last left in a previous session, so we are working on Proc Contents. So what does this Proc Contents do? It gives you the the description of your data set, the broad idea of how the data is structured, as far as the how many variables are there, and how many observations are there, what are the types of variables. You get all this details from a Proc Contents procedure. So let's just go ahead and see how this works. So Proc Contents data equals dataset name. So let's say we want to understand what are the contents of this particular dataset called cars, which is there in SAS help library. So the way I put it is SAS help. First is a library reference name dot and then the dataset name, that is cars, right? Proc contents data is equal to the dataset name, that is SAS help dot cars, and a simple run. So this we have seen already. How does this execute? I just select this code and I click on run, right? So here we have the result. Yes, excellent. If you look at the log here, you can see the procedure contents was executed and the amount of time it has taken. And in the results page, we can see the information about the number of observations, that it has got 428 observations, number of variables, that is 15 variables, right? And the member type is data, the dataset name is sashelp.cars, all this information we have here. And below that we have the engine or the host dependent information, right? And yes, here is something we are interested in. Here we see alphabetic list of variables and attributes. So this is a list of variables that are there in this data set. So here we have the variable name, and here before that we have the number of the variable, then the type, that is the data type of that particular variable, then the length of it, the format if the that is applied on the variables, and the label if any, right? So if you when you see here, we have seen this already, that this is a list of variables in their alphabetic order. So we already know that in case we want um, the list of variables to be listed in the same order as they are created in the data set, we use a varnum option, right? So I select this and I use F3, that's a shortcut to run your code, and here's the result. Yeah, so here you see list of variables in the creation order. So now you see the numbering being in the serial order from 1 to 15. So this is how the variables appear in your data set. In case we want both, then we have one more option that goes with it. Proc contents data equals dataset name. We have varnum, which we have already seen, and there's this option called position. So let's run the code and see what exactly this option position does to our Proc contents result. Yeah, so here we have the result. Yeah, the contents procedure, and here we have first of all the alphabetic list of variables and the attributes, right? And we also have variables in creation order. So what exactly this position option does is it'll give us a list of variables both in creation order as well as in alphabetic order. Got it? You can see this is the alphabetic list of variables and attributes, and below that we have variables in creation order. So when we use varnum, we get only the list of variables in creation order. whereas when we use position we get it in both, that is the alphabetic order as well as the creation order, right? So this was about trying to get the contents of a particular data set in a particular library, right? What do we do in case we want to get the details of all the data sets that are there in a particular library, right? So what we can do is let me just give an example. Before doing that, let me just create a copy of a particular data set in my work library, so that basically the code will run quickly when I use a library which has got lesser number of files. So that is the idea. That's the reason I'm just creating a copy of a couple of data sets into work library. So let's say my destination is cars in underscore one. Let me put it this way. Set source. So how do we create a copy of a data set? Using a data and set statement, right? Set source file is SAS help.cars run. So similarly, I want to create a copy of another data set, that is class, from the same library SAS help.class. Okay, so I'll just quickly run these codes so that a copy of these data sets is created into my work library, and then I will see what is the code that I can use in order to get the contents of all the data sets that are there in a particular library, right? I could have done the same thing with SAS help library also, but it basically has like way too many number of data sets there, so it would take a lot longer to execute. So that's the reason we're just creating copy of these two data sets into work, and we'll try it out on a work library. So we see both the data sets have been copied. We can see that in a log, right? Dataset work.cars underscore one has 428 observations and 15 variables, and similarly the class dataset also. So let's do it. Let's do proc contents data equals. So now we want all the list of all the contents of all the files that are there in a particular library. So let's say work, right? So what I do is specify the library name period underscore all underscore, right? Work dot underscore all underscore is the code which will help me get the contents of all the uh, files that are there in this particular library. Run. So let's just run this code. Yeah, here we have the result. So what was the difference in the code? So rather than specifying a particular dataset name, we are specifying using the option of underscore all underscore with the along with the library reference name. So here we have the result. You can see it's giving the directory result. The library reference is work that we are looking at, right? And here the second table is giving us information of all the data sets that are there. So let me just quickly refresh the work library and let's see the data sets that are there. So what I do here, I'm minimizing my SAS help. Yeah. So under my work library, I have cars underscore one and class underscore one. So you can see that here, cars underscore one, the member type is data. It's a data set. Class underscore one, that's also a data set. And there are a couple of other member types here. That's a catalog. There are two catalog files, and there's a one registry which are item store. So we'll come back to this later as to what these catalogs and item stores are. So currently we are concentrating on a data set. So here we have these two data sets. We have the information about them, what is the file size and what is the last modified date, right? Since we have created just some time back, so here we have the details. Okay, So now going ahead, here we have the contents procedure for the dataset work.cars underscore one. So it's giving the details of how many observations are there and how many variables are there. This is similar to uh, the result of a contents procedure of a one particular dataset. Right, so and after this we have the engine information, and then we have alphabetic list of variables and attributes of this particular dataset. And as I go further down, I have another result for class underscore one, and it has got 19 variables, 9 observations and 5 variables. Go further down, then I have the list of variables of this particular data set. So as you see, by using underscore all underscore along with the library name in a proc contents procedure, you get a list of all the files or data sets that are there in a particular library. Not only the data sets, you get a list of all files, be it a catalog file or an item store file or a data set, and you will get the detailed report, contents report of every dataset that is there, the way we have it here. So there are two datasets here, so we are having a detailed contents proc contents procedure result for the dataset class underscore one and work cars underscore one, and before that we have the list of files in the particular library. So that is how we use underscore all underscore, right? So now let's say we don't want a detailed report like this, wherein we are having the detailed contents procedure result of each and every data set. We just want the list of files that are there. So basically what I'm trying to say is, we just want the list of files that are there. We're basically interested in this table of any library. So how do we do that? So how we can do that is proc contents. Again, data equals the library name dot underscore all underscore. I use this option called nodes. So what does nodes do? It will suppress the details of the proc contents procedure. Sorry, excuse me. So let's just run this code and check the result. Yeah. So if you see here, we don't have the detailed report of the contents procedure. We just have the overall view of the number of files that are there along with the directory details. Got it? So that's how we do. So now let's see how many files are there in SAS help library, SAS help underscore all underscore, right? So not, because I don't want list of all the report of all the data sets that are there. I just want the list of files, right? And I say run. Yeah. So if you see contents procedure, this is the directory reference, directory details, library reference, SAS help, right? Uh, Apparently there are four different levels into this. Therefore, there is information of all the levels: the physical name, the file name, the engine, the owner name, and so on and so forth. You have level 1, 2, 3, 4, right? What we are interested is in this grid here, the table here, which is giving us all the different data sets that are there in this particular file, right? In this particular library, I mean. So you can see there's an index file, there's a data file, there's a catalog, right? So I'm just scrolling down. So these are the number of files that are there. So in total we have about 562 files. So that's including your catalog files. Got it? So this is how you get information and on all the files that are stored in a particular library. Right? So that's about Proc Contents. right? Now let's just see as to how do we modify variable attributes, like very simple ones. We've already seen how do we assign format and informat. So what we'll be seeing now is how do we assign a label to a variable, and we'll see how do we rename a variable. Okay, so renaming a variable. Let's just take an example of this data set called cars again. Right. So as we have seen, the dataset cars has got about 15 variables. So let's say we want to assign a label to one of the variables, which is uh, let's say make or model. Okay. So how do we do that? Since we are making some changes, we are manipulating some data here. It's going to be a data step. Am I right? Data destination file. So cars, and just since I'm not specifying the library name here, library reference, it obviously means it's going to be saved on a work library, right? Set source file, correct? And then I say label variable name equals, then I say label variable name, let's say uh, MSRP equals max selling price. I'm just putting in some description to the existing variable, that is MSRP, right? This is how you can assign a label to a variable using a label statement. You can also rename it using a rename statement. Let's say we want to rename a variable called model. So the variable that I want to rename, model, equals, and the new name that I want to assign to it. So again, when you're renaming, you need to keep one thing in mind, that the new value of the renamed variable has to adhere to the rules of a variable name, as in you cannot have special characters, you cannot have a space, you can it cannot begin with a numeric value, right? So you have to keep that in mind and give a new name to this existing variable name. So let's say uh, car underscore model. Yeah, I'm just changing it to car underscore model. Run. So let me do a proc print of this dataset to see the result, cars. And I'm using an option called label in my proc print so that I get to view the labels of the variables which have the label and not the variable name. Run. Let me run this code. Yeah, so yeah, we have a proc print result. If you can see, the model is now we don't read it as model anymore. It has become car underscore model based on the way we have renamed it. And MSRP, as you can see, the variable name is still MSRP, but since in a proc print we have said we have specified the option label, we get to see the label of it, that is max selling price. Yeah, so if I give this without, if I run this code without label, that is if I run my proc print without the label option, you will see the difference is only in the change is only in the variable name model, and the rest of the variables are the same. Yeah, so car underscore model, and MSRP is the same. Since in the earlier code we had specified the label option, we were able to uh, print the label of the variable and not the variable itself. Yeah, so that's how you rename and label a particular variable. So to quickly revise what a label does. So what a label does is it assigns, uh, adds a description to the variable, whereas rename, as the name suggests, changes the variable name. Got it? So the difference is clear. And when we are giving a assigning a label, it usually is a description. Since it's a description to a variable name, it's got an explanation into it. So there would be special characters, like the way we here we have a space, hence it is in inverted commas. Usually your label will be in your inverted commas or quotes, right? So this is about how we rename a particular variable and how do we add a label to it, right? So now moving ahead, let's see. So as we've seen in this example, when we try to use proc print, we have ended up printing the entire uh, data set, right? Let's see how do we select certain variables in a data set. All right. Yeah. So how do we do that? Is by using your in case of data step, you use a keep and drop options. Yeah. And when it's in case of a proc step, you most of the proc steps that it is it's not in all of them, it's in most of the cases, right? In a proc step we generally use a var statement, right? So firstly let's see how do we do this in a data step. So simple, data destination. What's the destination file? Cars underscore drop, right? Set source file. So what's the source file here? SAS help dot cars run. So by writing this code, we know that a copy of cars from SAS help library is created into is created as cars underscore drop into a work library, right? But here we are talking about selecting only certain specific variables and not all of them. So in case we want to retain all the variables of cars dataset except for a few, like let's say horsepower, cylinders. So I have to specify the drop keyword. Drop equals horsepower, cylinders, model, and let's just say these three variables is what we don't want in a new cars data set. So what we do is we use a drop statement. So drop the variable names that you want to drop from the data set. So now a new cars underscore drop data set will have only 12 variables as against 15 from a source file, because we are dropping three variables, right? So let me run this code. So you can check it in a log itself. So you see that the dataset cars underscore drop has got same number of observations as the source file, but there are only 12 variables, right? Since 3 variables have been dropped. Okay, I think I trying to open some file. That's happened by mistake. Okay, so no problems there. Oh, let's just go to work library. So cars underscore drop. I'm trying to open the table. Yeah, here you don't have the model variable, if you can make a note of it. And drivetrain, you're right. You have weight, wheelbase, and length. And we don't have horsepower and cylinders, correct? So that's how you use a drop statement. And let's take an example where we want a data set called cars underscore keep, which has only 4 variables, right? So for that we use a keyword called keep. We use this option keep equals, and specify the variables that you want to retain in this data set. So let's say make, model, type, and invoice, right? If these are the only 4 variables that I want to retain in this particular data set cars underscore keep, I use the keep option, and then set in my set statement I have to use the source file, that is SAS help.cars, and run. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. So when you want to drop certain variables, you use a drop option, and when you want to retain certain variables only or keep certain variables, you use the keep option. Alright, so let me just run this code. Yeah, so here we have the result. So you can see the new dataset cars underscore keep has got only 4 variables. So those are the variables that we have mentioned in a keep statement, right? And let's just see if we can do a similar thing by using a keep option in a set statement and not in data statement. So let me use it here, and let me just keep 3 variables here. Let's keep 1, and let us also try using a drop option in a set statement and not in a data statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my drop statement here in my set. Drop option I'm using in my set statement. Let me just drop model, wheelbase, and length, weight, and type. So I'm trying to drop these 5 variables in my cars underscore drop 1, right? And I'm trying to keep the 3 variables in cars underscore keep 1. The difference from the earlier code is that I'm trying to use a keep statement in my set, keep option in my set statement, and drop option also in my set statement, whereas earlier we had used them in a data statements, right? I just select these codes. I can run multiple of them at the same time, so I select both of them and I run the code. Oops, looks like I got some error. Okay, I think I've missed the closing brackets here, my mistake. So let me just run it again. Yeah, so we have the result. So if you see, cars underscore drop 1 has got only 10 variables because we are dropping 5 variables. So 50 out of 15 we are just having 10 variables. And in the keep one data set we are having only 3 variables that we just specified in the keep statement. right? So let's just quickly open both the files and take a look. Yeah, here we have here. So here we have only make, origin, and drivetrain. We don't have the type and the model, right? We have cylinders, engine size, mpg, city and highway, and we have horsepowers, but we don't have weight and length, right? So wheelbase also we don't have. So this is how a drop has worked. And cars underscore keep one, we should be having only three variables here. So that is make, model, and type. So these are the only three variables that are there, right? So now we know that you can use a drop option and keep option in both a data statement as well as a set statement. So what is the difference? So it's very important and important to know the difference. The result is going to be the same, no matter you use it in a set or a data. We have already seen that. Yeah. But what is more important to know is how does the internal processing happen, right? So let us just take this example of keep. Okay, so when I use a keep statement, keep option in my data statement, what happens is all the variables and observations that are there from my source file, that is SAS help.cars, correct? So all the observations and all the variables are copied into cars underscore keep. All right. So now my car, and after copying all the variables, it reads the keep state option, and only three or four, in this case four, are retained, are kept, and the rest of them are all deleted. Is that clear? So what I'm trying to say is that when keep option is used in your data statement, all the observations and all the variables of the source file are copied onto the destination file. And after copying all the variables based on the keep or drop statement there, in this case keep statement, only these four variables are kept and the rest of them are all deleted, right? And let's see what happens when we use a keep option along with a set statement. Here what happens is the keep option is used with a set statement. So even before copying the entire data set based on the variables which are there in a keep statement, so in this case there are only three variables, only the three variables along with all the observations are copied into the destination file cars underscore keep one. Is that clear? So here, so obviously it's very clear that it is more efficient to use your keep or drop in a set statement rather than in your data statement, right? Because there's no redundancy in when you do it, and when you use a keep or drop in your data statement, uh, all the variables are first of all a copy of them is created, and then the essential ones are retained and the rest of them are deleted. Whereas when you use it in your set statement, even before copying the entire data set, whatever is required based on the keep and drop statement, only those variables are kept and a copy is made, right? So obviously it makes more sense and it's more efficient to use your keep and drop with your set statement. Is that clear? I hope it is. Yeah, so that was about retaining certain set of variables using a keep and drop statement in a data step. All right. So now let's see how do we do that in proc. So let's just take an example of simple proc print data. I think I'm sure you already gone through this. So proc print data equals to the variable name sashelp.cars, right? And then I use a var statement. So let's say model, make, and type, origin. So these are the variables that I'm specifying in my var statement. So when I select this and run this code, my report will have only those list of variables that are there in my var statement, and they will appear in the same order as I have written them in the mentioned those variable names in the var statement. So first my model appears, then make, type, and origin, right? So in case I change the order, let me say uh, origin, and then type model, and make. Right, so let me just rerun this code. Then I'll have the list of only those variables that are there in this var statement and also in the same order. Yeah, so here we have origin, type, model, and make. So that's how we select certain set of variables only in a proc print by using a var statement. Alright, now we have seen as to how do we select certain set of certain specific variables only from a data set. Now let's see what do we do in case we want to print select certain observations based on number line. So here our idea is to extract certain observations only, but based on the number line. So there is a detailed topic, that is conditional statements, which we'll be discussing, wherein we'll be concentrating on how do we extract observations based on certain condition. But right now we are not going to do that. We are going to see based on the number line how do we extract the specific observations that we need. So how do we do that? In proc print, let's see how we do that. Proc print data equals dataset name SAS help.cars, and I use as options first OBS and OBS. So first OBS is equal to 1, OBS equals 10. So first OBS is the option which will specify the number line from which it should start reading, right? And OBS specifies the final number line that it has to read. So in this case we have given first OBS is equal to 1, which means from the first observation to the 10th observation the all the data has to be read, right, and printed in a result of a proc print. Correct. So let's see how this works. Yeah, so here are the 10 observations that we have from observation number 1 to observation number 10, right? So we see this is how we can extract based on the number line. Let's just play around with these options first, OBS and OBS. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me just put this as first OBS is 10 and OBS is 20, right? And see, and I can use an option called n also in my proc print, which specifies the total number of observations in that result of proc print. Okay, so let me just put this first OBS as 100, and I'll not specify the OBS value, and here I'll put OBS as 50, and here I'll just put this as 20, and OBS will also be 20. And in the last example, let me put it as 100, or rather is equal to 30, and let this be 50. Okay, so let's just run one code after the other. I'm just using a n option also, which gives me the number of observations. Yeah, alright, so now let me just run this code. Let's see what the result is, where first OBS is equal to 10 and OBS is equal to 20. Can you see the result here? So I have from 10th observation to 20th observation. So I have the result of n also. The total number of observations are 11, right? Because we are printing the result from 10th to 20th, right? So always first OBS specifies the starting observation from which it has to read and print, and OBS specifies the last observation which it has to print. And please keep it in mind that these are the observation numbers. When I say first OBS equals 10, it means a 10th observation and not 10 observations. Similarly, when I say OBS is equal to 20, it means up to 20th observation. It is not the total is 20 observations. Is that clear? Please don't get confused there. Let's see what happens when only first OBS is specified without the OBS. So I'm saying first OBS is equal to 100. So what happens now is logically thinking is pretty simple. It will start reading and writing from the 100th observation till the end of file. Right? So in this case we have 428 observations. So from 100th observation to 428th observation is written in the report. So the total number of observations here, n equals 329, right? So when you don't specify the OBS value in the OBS option, then when I specify only first OBS, then from the number that is specified in the first OBS, from there till the end of file is printed. Right? Let's see the next example where we specify only OBS and not the first OBS. So yes, I think you're guessing it right. So what would happen here is from the first observation, that is the default, till the OBS, that is 50, till the 50th observation, all observations are going to be written. So here n equals 50. Since it defines the limiting observation, from first till 50th observation, all observations are going to be printed. Right? Let's just take this example where first OBS is 20 and OBS is 20. Any guess as to what the result will be? Yes, that's I believe you're getting it right, that it is only one observation. So first OBS is also 20 and OBS is also 20, which means only the 20th observation is being printed. Correct? So n equals 1. And here comes an interesting code where first OBS is 50 and OBS is 30. So let's run this code as well. So here we have an error. Correct? So we did expect an error. What the error reads is first OBS option is greater than the OBS option. No data to read from file SAS.cars. So obviously your first OBS option cannot be greater than your OBS. Right? Remember, these are the number lines that we are talking about. The serial number, the observation number. Yeah? So you can't have first OBS is 50 and OBS is 30. So obviously you've got an error. So this will give you an error. First OBS cannot be greater than OBS. Correct? Right? So that's about using first OBS and OBS in order to extract certain number of observations only based on the observation number from a data set. Yeah. Next, here we have, let's see how do we do this similar thing in data step. Right? So whatever we have done so far is, you know, that we have got only a print view of it, right? We have not saved any of this into a data set. So in case we want to do it, data destination cars underscore 10, right? So here also I can use first OBS equals 10, OBS equals 20, right? Set source file, run. Let me just do a proc print of this to see the result. Cars underscore 10, Just run this code. Let's see if we can create a data set called cars underscore 10 with only 11 observations, because its first OBS is 10 and OBS is 20, so we should be having only 11 observations. Are we? No, we are not, right? We see all the observations are there, and we see we have to check a log because there's a warning, correct? So what is this warning? Does this mean we can't use first OBS and OBS? It says the option first OBS is not valid in this context. Option is ignored. Similarly, option OBS is also not valid in this context. Option is ignored. Yes, so it means we cannot use first OBS and OBS in a data statement here. So let's just try and use it in a set statement and see if we can get the result. Let me just run this code. Yes, we have the result wherein our cars underscore keep one dataset is having only 11 observations. Let's go through the log. There are no errors or warnings. So Proc Print has executed, 11 observations read, and the 11 observations read from data set SAS.cars, and the final data set has got 11 observations and 15 variables. So what it means is that first OBS and OBS can be used in a data step, but it has to be strictly used with your set statement and not with your data statement. Yeah, so cannot be used in options, cannot be used in data statement, can be used only in set statement. Yeah, so here this will result in entire data set is copied and options are ignored, correct? So that's what happened. So what it means is first OBS and OBS can be used in data step but have to be strictly used with your set statement only. Is that clear? Yeah, so that's how we use first OBS and OBS options in a proc step, and that's how we use them in a data step. Yeah, so yes, so what we have seen in this particular session is how do we use select certain specific observations based on the observation number, that is using first OBS and OBS, right? And how do we use keep and drop options in data and set statement, and how do we use select certain specific variables only to print in a proc print using a var statement. And we also checked how do we rename and label variables along with some of the options of Proc Contents. So that was about today's session. Hope you were able to follow. In case of any questions, please get in touch with us. Thank you.